Hello, good people. This is another Dramas Over Flowers episode where we go a bit off track from our regularly scheduled programming. Now, we really like doing these special episodes. They let us explore aspects of Asian entertainment that we can't really cover in depth in our yaks. Plus, yaks are something the three of us like to do. Whereas with these specials, we like bringing on guests who are also sometimes our listeners to hear what they have to say. So, we decided to give this series its own name. We are calling these Off the Record. Though, clearly, they are being recorded. But let's not focus on semantics. We like the name, so we are sticking with it. This episode is all about Korean pop music. So, if you were ever curious about what makes international fans so attracted to the genre despite the language barrier, this is the episode for you. We have two very knowledgeable K-pop nerds on board, and there is a lot of giggling. So, let's get this started. I'll see you on the other end. 보고 싶다. 이렇게 말하니까 더 보고 싶다. 널 사진을 보고 있어도 보고 싶다. 너무 약속한 시간. Hi, this is Anita.
Hi, this is Porma.
And you're listening to Dramas Over Flowers.
And this is a special episode where we have two good friends with us, Sicarius and Greenfields.
Hello, this is Greenfields, also rimi.
Yay, welcome.
And sorry, this is Sicarius.
Hi guys, welcome aboard. And this is an episode that we are doing on K-pop because I know very little about the industry. And Anisa, you want to tell us about your knowledge?
I kind of came sideways to K-pop from Kdramas, so like I was pretty heavy into the Big Bang fandom, but that was like 5 years ago, so I'm a little bit like outdated. I don't know what all the young kids are listening to these days.
I'm not sure I'm that much younger.
Am I still the youngest? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Our voices do not reveal anything, so we're all good. But I just wanted to ask where everyone's recording from because we thought it'd be cool to just show our listeners and sort of bring into discussion how international the K-pop fandom is. So I'm in the US. Barma.
Yeah, I'm from India, and I am not yet a K-pop fan. Sorry, really?
And I am also from India, but I am definitely a K-pop fan.
Yeah,
and I'm from New Zealand.
And I just like to point out that India is like the K-pop dry land. That's like a desert. There's absolutely almost nothing here.
Oh,
so I feel like there's probably quite a few fans, just nobody ever comes to India.
I do feel that American K-pop fans are like really privileged in that way because you can, especially in the last few years, like there's concerts all over, not just in New York and LA. Yeah, although I have never been to one.
There have been
a lot of my friends go to them. Like I'm in North Carolina, and I have friends who've like.
You should go.
I went to one in like Atlanta.
Just go to a random one. Just go to like any.
Go. And yes, please go. For me, shipping is as expensive as the product we want to order. Yeah.
There's only been 3 K-pop concerts in New Zealand, and they're all from 2016 onwards. So I feel some of you.
Okay. So it's coming.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even coming to India. Who knows?
Well, I'm pretty sure it will, but it's gonna take time because like popularity and money, those are just economics, and it'll come. Yeah. It's getting so popular here. I mean, I know that there aren't as many educated fans like you, Rimi, but there are quite a number of people really interested in K-pop these days. So I'm just thinking that the fandom is built.
Educated fans.
We live in hope.
So on that note. Like, I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this already kind of know what K-pop is, but like, could you guys kind of tell us what do you think of as K-pop? Like, how would you define it? Do you think it's a genre?
Oh, gosh.
I don't know. Big question.
I don't know if I would necessarily define it as a genre per se of music. Music genres in general get like really messy anyway. I would because. Yeah, you go first.
A lot of K-pop, one artist will do a lot of genres that, for instance, in the West are categorized as R&B, hip-hop, rock, pop,
etc., etc. And a lot of artists tend to mix all of those genres into what we sort of know as K-pop. For me, it's almost like a sub-cultural thing of the Korean entertainment industry, because not all of Korean music follows the same pattern that we think of as K-pop, and not all, or nowhere else in the world really. Some of the other Asian countries like Taiwan and China and Japan have similar things, but the how it works and the structure of it is quite unique almost, and it's almost like a subcultural thing rather than a genre, because it's like this whole format of how music is made, and it's not just the music, it's the variety and the dancing, and you have to be able to MC and be funny, and all of this is all those layers to it, which is almost like, which almost makes it very, very different from just a genre per se.
I've always thought of it. Sorry, go ahead, Rimi.
I think an easy way to look at it is, what people say is just popular music from Korea. A lot of international fans, when we talk about K-pop, we talk about idol pop.
Yeah.
And that is what Sica is referring to when she talks about the dancing and the variety shows and the emceeing that you're required to do, which is a lot more than just music.
Yeah.
And I also like to think of K-pop as a visual genre, not just a musical genre, if we must call it a genre. Or idol pop is not just about music, it's also about the visual aspect of things, which is why choreography is such a big part of it, or what idols do.
It's very visual. It's almost like, pop, we talk about pop music, but pop music is just what you say, popular music, but it always has become a genre in its own right. And I don't really have a musical theory to discuss that, to be honest. But there's a lot of, it's almost like in Korea, I've noticed not everybody listens to idol pop or K-pop as we think of it.
I have a question. About the types of music that you guys are talking about, because the only type of music from Korea that I have exposure to are soundtracks from dramas. So do they fall under the genre of K-pop at all, or is that a totally different brand of music? I think that question just revealed a lot of
depends on it depends on who's making it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, sort of.
So what about Stay With Me? The Goblin song. I think that was Chanyeol and Punch, right?
Punch. Okay. It's kind of like, it's quite a gray area, a lot of K-pop. For me, can I just explain sort of how I view K-pop and what I think of as K-pop? So K-pop sort of originated in the really, really early 90s with Taiji and the Boys. That was like the first kind of group that set for what we think of K-pop. They had like the rapping as like a gimmick, and that kind of upbeat music combined with the dance and the music video. And in the past 20 to 30 years, that sort of evolved into like, I don't even know. It's so hard to categorize. It's like a job and like a sports field and like a music thing and like a performance thing at the same time, because there's so much involved in it. So when I think of a K-pop group, I think of probably a group typically with more than one member that has a dance, and they have like a music video that has a particular visual concept, and then that visual concept also plays out into their promotions for that song or that album, and that song and that album is promoted on music shows specifically, such as MBS K-pop and Star Show and Champion and that kind of thing. And they'll perform the dance on that show, and fans will also vote, and whether or not they win a certain week or whatever, I don't really know if that means anything to me personally. It doesn't, but that will sort of help promote their music. And that is like sort of the basis kind of concept of K-pop. And then obviously there's people that sort of break out into that. OSTs, I wouldn't really say they're specifically K-pop, even if they are performed by a K-pop artist. So, for example, Chanyeol is part of EXO, and he is a K-pop idol. But that song necessarily wouldn't necessarily be K-pop, because it's not released under the same structure.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you about that.
Who creates these soundtracks for dramas? Is it a completely different production group?
It depends on the person. I don't know it depends on who's doing it. I know people like Jung Jun Young, who's actually a rock artist in Korea. He will write his own soundtracks if he's asked to do a soundtrack. And Zico, for example, writes his own soundtracks if he's asked to do a soundtrack.
Okay. What about, do you guys know Suran? Because I really like...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she produces and writes all her own music. So if she did an OST, I'd imagine that she would write her own music for it. Okay. Some, I think some soundtracks are written by whoever is in charge of the music part of drama making. So the Sound of Music producers. And then they'll just get someone to sing it, for example. Right. So I think, for example, Jong In-ji, for example, she's in A-Pink, and she's an actress, of course.
Yes, we love her.
We all love her. I love her too. I'm not sure if she's done a lot of OSTs. If she did an OST, I don't know whether she would write her own music or whether they would write her a song and then she'd just sing it. I don't know enough about, I haven't looked up credits, but I think that would happen quite a lot, but it does depend on the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
Yeah. Rimi, you wanted to tell us about your concept of K-pop?
No, I think Siko said it really well. So I would just agree with that.
Yeah, very well said. So how did both of you kind of come to this fandom, being where you are in the world?
Oh.
I know the easy answer is the internet, but like...
You can go first, Rimi.
Okay, so I've also come sideways from dramas. Mm-hmm. And I think in 2017, the end of 2017, I was in a bit of a drama slump and somebody suggested I watch Produce 101.
Oh.
And I managed to get my hands on the second season. So it was long after it was over. I got my hands on the second season and I would check out the originals of songs I like, as well as that they were performing. And, you know, I watched all of Produce 101, but after that, I kept coming back to BTS's Boy in Love. And the song itself, you know, I really pay attention to the lyrics, and the lyrics are slightly problematic. The MV, you know, there's this unhygienic school. It's such a mess. And
the song's fun.
The song is fun. And they've misspelled love. That's how I like to say it. Like, they didn't know how to spell love back then.
They're just trying to be cool. Yeah. It was a phase.
Yeah, but the song is so catchy. I love how V growls, and, you know, there are all these sound effects. They do a brum, 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 like a car. It's so nice. And I just
listen to that song too much.
Yeah. I think I spent 3 or 4 days just listening to that song. And from there, I moved to other BTS songs. And, you know, when we go into BTS, I can talk about how much I love the concept that they have taken on, or generally the message that they put out. So that's how I got into K-pop.
So I didn't get into K-pop through Kdramas. I'd heard about K-pop for quite a long time. There were people in high school, so that's 6-ish years ago, with me who were into it then, which now I look back on that and I think about what groups were really big then. I'm like, oh. But I didn't really get into it, and I always refused, like, for like 3 years straight after I got into K-dramas. I was like, I'm not getting into K-pop. I refuse to get into K-pop. I don't want to get into K-pop. So I was straight. And then there's actually a couple of things I blame. Number one is Pinterest. For some reason, I'm getting that.
I thought you were going to say Tumblr. That was not what I was expecting.
No, Tumblr and I have a very interesting relationship. No, it wasn't Tumblr. Jokes. Anyway, keep going. Pinterest. I don't know why, but for some reason, all these random K-pop members kept turning up on my Pinterest feed for no reason, and in the description thing underneath it have their name. And because I'm a sponge and I absorb information, I was just like, oh, that random is called V, or that random is called N. Why do they have single letter names? That's so random. So I just sort of, that kind of kept coming up. And then my next door neighbor, who's my friend, and she's a bit younger than me, she'd got into K-pop. She's been into K-pop for ages, because she's born in New Zealand, but she's ethnically Japanese. So she was into like Ghibli movies and K-dramas, and then she had a Korean friend in high school, and she got into K-pop. Anyway, I was at her place, and I decided that it was a great idea to name drop what I'd seen on Pinterest, which it was not a good idea to name drop what I'd seen.
You didn't know what you were starting.
And I was like, yeah, why do they have like such weird names like V? And she was like, oh my gosh, you know V? And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, just saying his name. I'll get that reaction out of me as well.
So that was May 2016, and I needed something to laugh at, basically. I was in a kind of a low moment. And so I didn't get into it originally because of the music. And I still, like, for like 5 months after that, I was like, I don't like it. I just think it's funny.
You were ironically enjoying it.
Yeah. So I started with BTS, and mostly because she showed me their dancing clips and their clips of them being really hilarious and them being dorks. And from there, it kind of spiraled, and I eventually listened to more of the music, and I listened to more of other people's music, and etc., etc. And now, 2.5 years later, here we are. So it started with BTS, but many more came after that.
So are both of you like giant BTS stans? Are those like your your main fandom?
That's only me. I am a giant BTS fan. Zico has moved on.
I wouldn't. It's hard to explain. I still love them for what like I love Yoongi's music, for example. So that's Suga. He's one of their rappers. If you didn't know that, I don't know what you guys know about K-pop groups.
At this point, I might add that Zico and I are both Suga biased. He's our ultimate bias.
Yeah, he's both
of us.
Do you guys even know what that means? Do you know what like the bias?
I know what a bias is. I don't know. Parma, do you know what a bias is?
I have a general idea. I cannot imagine a sentence that I would use that word in myself.
I mean, it's pretty literal. To bias something is you have a bias towards.
Is it the same thing as standing someone? That sounds like a new thing.
Stanning's not new.
Why?
Goes way back to Eminem.
Oh, great! I just made myself sound 10 years older than I am.
It's okay. It just means you have a bias to a particular member in a group.
Yeah.
Okay.
It means it means you like that person best.
Yeah. Especially when you have so many options in a boy band. You usually have something like 7 to, I don't know, 17 boy
some
band
people
members.
don't like the idea of bias. Like, no, I can't pick. And generally for me, it's just been like something about a single person in the group has stood out to me because they're relatable in some way. And then
So Suga is the one for both of you.
Yeah.
Correct.
I feel like also the concept of having a bias is a very functional kind of part of K-pop fandom, because you can't really be a fan of such a large group of people in an efficient way, especially if you're a really hardcore fan. You know, I mean, you like pick someone and be like, okay, this is the one.
Well, to be honest, I'll tell you a story though. When I got into 17, they have 13 members. Sorry, I'm not explaining that. Or should I explain that?
You should explain this. I want to hear it.
Okay. So 17 used to have 17 members, but for several reasons, 4 of them left, because partly due to personal reasons and partly due to their youngest member was way too young. And that is actually Samuel Kim, who was on Produce 101 season 2, and now he's gone solo. So he used to be in 17 pre-debut. So then they had to debut with 13 members. So now what they say is it's 13 members.
Wait. They lost their members before they debuted, but they didn't think to change their name to 13.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, that's weird.
I guess they must have started promotions as 17.
Yeah, they started.
It was like, we already made your album cover. We're not paying.
I mean, K-pop's weird sometimes, all right? It does weird things, and I don't have an explanation for it.
But they're definitely like...
No, actually, 17 did have their name pre-debut, so they actually had this thing called Project 17 before they officially debuted, and they had a bunch of behind-the-scenes clips and stuff of them talking about.
I think there are even like trainees that have fans.
Yeah. So 17 was like that. They were trainees and they had fans. So I believe that's probably why they just kept their name.
So they've already this brand image.
So now they explain it like there's 13 members and then there's 3 units. So they have like a vocal unit, a hip hop unit, and a dance unit, and 1 team. So that's 13 plus 3 plus 3. Oh, sorry, plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. I can't remember now. Plus 4. 13 plus 4 equals.
It's a little forced.
13 plus 3 units plus 1 team equals 17. That's how they explain it. Pretty much all the fans it's just an excuse, but it works. And hey, K-pop's weird, right? So it works. Anyway, what was I getting at?
I know that 17 is definitely one of the top 10 bands out of Korea, so it seems to have worked. Whatever their explanation.
Definitely.
Great, yeah. They also
in a lot of variety shows, at least last year, I was hearing them talk about EBS as the 3 most popular groups. So that's EXO, BTS, and 17. In variety shows.
I would put GOT7 up there as well, but yeah.
And as well as 101.
Yeah, and 101, and then let's not go into that. It's like very popular.
True.
Like and then there's Big Bang, and then there's we'll stop there. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, when I first got into 17, I actually got into them. I was like for like a couple of months, I was like, I'm not gonna get into them because there's too many members. I don't want to learn that many names. And then I watched one of their videos and I was like, I hate not knowing everybody's names. I'm just gonna learn it. Fine. And then for like 6 months, I didn't actually have a bias. So it depends on the group and it depends on the person. But there was almost too many, so I couldn't actually pick one. But I do like I can't remember who said it now. Who said about, there's so many of them, maybe it's just easier to bias one person than the whole group. Which, fair enough.
That's my philosophy anyway.
What do you guys think about how trainees and also just band members, their dynamics is often, at least initially, it's scripted, and that their personality is set according to what character they are supposed to play in the band. Each member is supposed to have a particular type of character. I may be explaining this completely incorrectly.
You guys like they have an image they're supposed to portray.
But rather than a character, I would say, for instance, with EXO, when they debuted, they really had this superpower concept, right? Where each member was assigned a superpower. I don't know how much it feeds into the personality that they're supposed to show on screen and on stage. But
I think it depends on the group again. Like, I know with EXO, they sort of debuted with this sort of like mysterious concept. And I read somewhere that Baekhyun, who has a really mischievous personality in real life, and he doesn't really fit the whole mysterious concept. I just did quotey fingers, but you can't see. Mysterious concept in quotey fingers that the EXO is supposed to have. So I guess it depends on the group.
But is it hard to bias someone? Oh God, I just used that word. Is that why it took you 6 months to get into someone, because you were gathering information about the different team members? What is it like? How do you figure out that it's the real person?
Gathering information.
That's pretty much exactly what I was doing.
Think of the intelligence agent.
Hey, but it means assassin, so what?
Yes.
That's pretty much exactly what I did with 17. Actually, it was like I watched enough stuff that I had to sift through. Like you were saying, sometimes it's hard.
Because you can't always have the real personality.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out a way to say that. Sometimes the image is more prevalent, and sometimes you can read between the cracks and find out the real person.
And in my case, I just listen to their music, and if I like the music, that person's my bias. Done.
Okay, so their looks, their personalities, they don't sway you as much? Or they're
not for me. Yeah, not for me. And Sica and our ultimate bias is Suga, and he's not necessarily a dancer. He dances well because, BTS has some choreography.
Because he's
not necessarily a dancer.
No. It's really who you bias and how you bias them and why you bias them is extremely dependent on the person. And it's really different for everybody. Like for Rimi, she just said it's like often who she listens to. For me, when I first saw BTS, Suga was the one I related to the most because he's most like me. And then when I listened to their music, his rapping was immediately the first thing that stood out to me. So for me, it's both his personality and his music.
Since you guys brought up rapping, you had pointed out, Sica, that the language, the Korean language, lends itself particularly well to rapping. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, there are some songs that you like more for the lyrics and the music, but I don't think the Korean, at least in the international community, are the lyrics given enough weight when fans follow these bands?
Do you think? No, I think so. I think a lot of international fans really look at the lyrics because they can't understand Korean, so they have to look up the lyrics to understand what they're saying. Again, for me, it's a combination of everything. So I love listening to music in other languages purely because it's in another language, which not everybody does or understands, like my young brother. He's like, what? So for me, it's like a combination of the music because if it's in a language I don't understand, I can listen to the music more easily, and then I can also enjoy it because it's in another language, and then I can look up the lyrics and also appreciate the lyrics. The more I learn about linguistics in Korean as a language and the history of that language and like the phonetics of that language, the more I listen to Korean rap. It's just my own personal theory. I'm not actually a qualified linguist. I'm just a nerd.
Are you a fan of rap in general?
Yeah, I love languages.
Sickos. Did you say rap in general?
Rap in general, is that what you asked?
Yeah, are you a fan of rap?
Yes, but
I mean, not just Korean rap, but I mean like Western rap.
I'm definitely Western rap. Who?
Like, how did you become a fan of rap? Was it through Western music or was it through Korean?
I remember liking some rap music from a couple of Western, not very well, and you probably won't know them, so I'm not going to mention their name. Like smaller Western rapping artists when I was like in high school. So I actually have always had a tendency towards rap. And then before even getting into anything Korean, I'm a big fan of a lot of Swedish and Finnish music. And there were some Finnish rappers that I got into previously. And so rapping as a style in Korean, I've just sort of, like, the more I listen to it, like, yeah, I really love Korean rap. There aren't many American or British rappers that I listen to, partly because I don't like English rapping because of the linguistics.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to this. So basically, in my case, I was not a fan of rap at all until I got into Korean hip-hop, kind of Korean rap.
You mean you didn't appreciate Yo-Yo Singh's rapping? I mean, that's an Indian rapper, yes. By the way.
I totally failed to appreciate Yo-Yo Singh's rapping. I think I've been paying attention to lyrics since whatever music I listen to. And a lot of hip-hop or rap, it kind of, at least the popular artists, I did find that it tends to, say, objectify women or, glorify these lifestyles that just didn't appeal to me. So because the lyrics weren't to my taste, I wasn't able to enjoy the music, even though the music might be nice. But a lot of Korean rap is really, it's cleaner in that sense. It's a lot healthier. They discuss
their own personal struggles rather than
so even a song about how wealthy I am and how well I'm doing might be prefaced with how much I've gone through to get here, instead of you all just you're all terrible and I'm the best, and with no basis whatsoever.
Even if I like rap, I pretty much do not listen to any mainstream Western hip hop artists. I wouldn't even be able to get through one of their songs, to be perfectly honest.
That's really interesting. I think the thing about American rap is that it's kind of lost its there are still a lot of people who rap about like social issues and really important things, but they aren't the ones that get awards and time on TV,
place on the billboards.
I think the more mainstream it gets, the more it loses where it came from, because rap originated out of those African American communities where they were really not well off, and it became an expression, and it actually became a thing in Korea similarly. like out of the underground rap scene, out of all these young kids and people who had it hard, and it developed out of that.
And I can almost see some like reflections of how the more mainstream it even gets in Korea, it's becoming more commodified.
I mean, even in Western rap, there are artists like, I think Macklemore have really nice lyrics.
Yeah, I mean,
most of the mainstream popular artists that we hear, I mean, I cannot enjoy music that's objectifying me. That's not how it works.
I also wonder, like, who is considered mainstream popular from American artists where you live, because I feel like you know, like who gets listened to and who gets promoted overseas is not necessarily always the same are, you know, in the country where the music is made, like who the people actually listen to. Like if you talk to Korean people, like most of them don't actually listen to K-pop. But then if you look at the international coverage of Korean music, most of it focuses on K-pop. So I think it's interesting as well how like that kind of works.
Yeah, I don't really listen to almost any Western pop music at all, so I wouldn't even be able to tell you what is popular in New Zealand.
And also, like,
I have not either.
Yeah, and in the US, like recently, they've come out with, I think they come out with some statistics either last year or a couple of years ago that for the first time in like 40 years, hip hop is the most popular genre of music in America, whereas it was always rock for the last like
for the last like 30 more years.
Since the Beatles, basically. It's
Or I was going to say, I think again, I'm not the most well-versed person in popular Western hip-hop, but for me it seems like the farther away it gets from where it originated, the less like substance it has to it.
No, it's true. Yeah. But it's also that it's become so big that there's so much variation within it. And so there's so much like you can kind of find what you want, and it's like, and there's
definitely, you know, there'd be smaller artists which you would find,
right?
I'm definitely sure there's smaller artists in that kind of subgenre that I would like even in English. But what I was going to compare is how rap is sort of handled in K-pop. Like there's the underground K-hip-hop scene that's becoming more popular, and then there's the K-pop scene which is been for so long sort of judged by other music genres or other music communities because it's not real or it's not authentic. Like the rapping's not real, the rapping's not authentic,
and the artists are seen as having souls themselves for
which honestly there's been several Korean idols who have grown up in the underground rapping scene that have kind of and now they're idols and they've broken into both markets, who have really pushed for like this end and this like competition basically between hip hop and K-pop. But that was quite a big I say fight. It wasn't like a physical fight, but it was like they definitely had to overcome this kind of pre-prejudice for people who are like, you're not a hip-hop artist, you're not a rapper because you're an idol. And it's like, well, my favorite rappers in Korean music happen to have come from an underground rap scene. So they have automatically more years of experience, and they also have a skill that they've obviously had since then, rather than just having learned it for the sake of K-pop, which a lot of artists
there's a video on YouTube where it's filmed a few years ago. It's a fan video where these two BTS members, the leader RM and Suga, so it's about a 10-minute video where they're being attacked by this rapper from the underground, I suppose, Be Free. And you know, you can catch a lot of the sort of prejudice that exists against idols and idol rappers in that video, because he accuses them of selling themselves out and being completely fake. And
you know, I don't even follow these people, but I heard about this when it happened because it was a big Twitter storm. There was a lot of fans that were.
I mean, it actually, just watching it made me so angry because I mean,
I don't even
and you know,
follow.
Suga's music has addressed this kind of conflict that he feels as an idol rapper between, I mean, what he wants to do is be a rapper and be a producer, but here he is working as an idol. And especially I would say he seems to have accepted his identity as an idol right now. But from his mixtape in 2016, a song that Sica and I really like is called The Last. And he addresses this conflict between being an idol rapper. And to now in 2018, where in Answer, his solo is called Seesaw. And he has incorporated some choreography. He says because he's an idol and he wanted to do something idol-like. So I feel over the years he may have come to accept it, but definitely when he debuted and for a few years, his music has reflected that conflict.
Yeah, and it's
question.
No, yep.
Sorry. What is it about an idol's identity that is so so antithesis to the identity of a rapper? Like, why can't he be both? Why is there a conflict at all? Like, what is an idol supposed to be that a rapper can't be, or vice versa?
Can I answer that? Because I have more to say on the idol rapping thing, on the vein of Suga confronting.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say first is Suga's not the only one who's sort of had to struggle.
Yeah, of course.
People like Zico, who's the leader and main rapper and main songwriter for Blockby, who's my favorite group, has definitely pushed for that, being a producer on Show Me the Money at the age of 23 and having confronted all this controversy. And then Bobby and Minnow of WYNA and Icon have also had that because they were both really strong contenders in Show Me the Money, and there was like that huge stigma, which I'll get into talking about, against, you know, when you're an idol rapper, you can't, you just, you know, you're backed by your company, you don't actually have a skill, you're not actually good, and it's not your skill that is making you good, it's your your company's money. That was definitely a big thing in a lot of people's stigma against K-pop idols, is that for them it seems that you're just made by your company rather than your skill, which is not true. That's just a stigma people have against K-pop. And then for people like Suga and RM, who were criticized by this other rapper, which is a horrible video, honestly. I almost didn't make it through watching it. I was so pissed off.
But they handled it with serious grace.
They handled it really well, and then they released a diss track, so that's fine. It was more like he had this extremely view base. It was very sexist. It was like, if you're an idol, then you can't be a man. That was what.
Calling it sexist is right. It was really sexist.
Yeah, it was. It was like, you are less of a human and a man because you wear makeup and dance. And it was like, whoa,
what?
Mate. Yeah, no, it was horrible. Like I said, don't watch it.
Wow. So speaking of sexism, yeah, so this kind of relates to the sexism, and it's shifting gears a little bit, but like, why do you think that boy bands tend to be more popular, especially with international fans? I've noticed they tend to follow more boy bands than girl groups. Girl groups. See, even the way that we're saying that is like a boy band or a girl group. Like, why is that?
A boy band and a girl group? Because they are literally
alliterations.
All made of boys, or a group made of all girls. There's very few co-ed groups out there anymore. So
I know, I was just saying the differentiation between a band and a group, but I see the
alliteration. Band and a group.
Yeah. But
the alliteration. No. I mean, even boy bands, even Backstreet Boys are considered a boy band. So there's,
even if
in the sense that semantic, it doesn't really apply in how, I think, in how boy bands are girl groups are viewed. It really is just an alliteration.
Yeah. But okay, so that's true. Leaving behind the terminology, but why do you think that girl groups are not? I mean, I think it's fair to say they're not as popular with international fans.
I think, Twice and Blackpink are both very, very big internationally.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily say they're not as popular, but...
And if you have to, think of YouTube as showing popularity, then I think, I think Blackpink and BTS are in competition for who has the most YouTube views in the first 24 hours.
Okay. And I'm also like I said, I'm outdated, so I'm thinking about Big Bang and
I don't necessarily disagree. I just think it's maybe a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
It might be because K-pop has spread internationally via these online communities, and it's true. I do feel that it has been the push has come from a female-led fandom,
Yeah, I mean,
internationally,
the concept of boy bands being popular has been popular since the Beatles,
right?
And that kind of thing just produces a whole lot of like the concept of a fangirl in particular. Fanboys exist, but like fangirls, I don't know whether it's like a shift in like the genders or whatever, but like fangirls seem to latch on to that kind of thing much more quickly and much more intensely. But also Twice, Red Velvet, Blackpink are all really, really huge internationally. And I know a lot
they have a large number of female fans.
And they have a lot of, they do. They have a large number of female fans. And then you have people like Block B and Winner who have a large number of male fans as well as female fans. So I don't really know because I don't know enough about psychology to analyze. Okay,
what about the two of you guys? Kind of. I mean, because you guys had told us that you guys like boy bands better than girl groups. So what about the two of you?
Rimi?
In my case, I feel, so I have tried listening to some girl group music. It might be that I haven't found something that really suits my taste. But what I don't like is this bubblegum kind of happy, everything is good and right in life kind of music doesn't appeal to me. And I feel like a lot of girl groups tend to do this kind of cutesy concept where they look like grown women, but they're dressed in, clothes
costumes pretty much.
Yeah, like clothes for little girls, and they're doing slightly provocative dances. It's just weird.
And part of that problem is because in Korea, girl groups have a lot of male fans, and this is not a good thing.
And while female artists do write their own music, I feel like with girl groups, the groups themselves, the members are writing lesser than say in boy groups. I don't know. That might not be true. But female artists write their own. This is true.
For me,
especially solo. Yeah.
For me, why I don't really like as much girl group content is partly because of the music and the singing. I find there's not really enough. I quite like having lower voices singing. So a lot of even my boy groups that I like tend to have more baritones than like tenors, for example, because even in boy groups, it's popular to have high voices, and in girl groups it's popular to have really, really high voices, and I don't really like listening to that. For me, I would have loved to have followed groups like 21 and 4 Minute and Brown Eyed Girls that had much more of a stronger kind of hip-hop.
I like Mamamoo. I think Mamamoo have a slightly stronger concept.
I love
that. Is probably one of the only female groups I really kind of consistently like, because they really they're much more vocally based and they have like a real jazzy kind of blues R&B vibe, and I just love that kind of music and it fits their music really well. So I think it's just like the music I just haven't related to as much girl groups as I have to boy group music. There are definitely female artists that write their own stuff. Ellie of Exid, for example, or EXID is I think how most people say it, but I say Exid. She actually writes all of her own music, and Brown Eyed Girls used to write their own music, but they've disbanded now, so that doesn't really count. HyunA of X and X Cube and X everything writes all her own stuff. So there's definitely groups out there, but it's almost like there is sexism within the companies and the industry that to try and sell girls a little bit differently.
For me, I pretty much agree. Like, I'm also more a fan of boy groups, boy bands. I think for the same reasons that you guys have talked about, like especially it seems very manufactured for the male gaze. And I think,
but I mean, when you flip it, a lot of the male groups are manufactured for the female gaze, and they're also sexualized.
This is true. Although I find myself not
becoming less of a thing now, but it's definitely a thing of maybe 5+ years ago to have like the shirtless pictures and the sexy dance moves and that kind of thing, which is definitely targeted towards that female.
There's also that. I mean, I don't see it so much now, but there was a lot of homoerotic stuff going on the stage. Things that are definitely taboo otherwise were happening, where you have like, I've seen a video of Super Junior members actually kissing each other on the mouth on a stage. Yeah, for fan service. As long as it's a performance, it's fine. If they're actually gay, it's a problem. But as a performance, it is quite acceptable, and fans really like this kind of stuff.
Which is a dichotomy that I find fascinating. You have other countries producing actual dramas called boy love dramas, and they are getting so popular now, and they have like real gay romances. But try bringing that up in Korea and actually suggesting that you might have idols with real romances, like real romances versus bromances. Bromances seem to be the safe space that's just allowed.
For me, the problem with the boy love thing, also in fan service and K-pop, is actually it's deliberately created to pander to a certain demographic, fantasy and fetish. So it's not actually a healthy thing.
For sure, the way it originated is
even
pretty
if it
much
was like
it's like female readers of manga and
Gali or whatever it is in Japan is specifically aimed towards a teenage female demographic.
Yeah, but we are going a little away from the topic, which is that at least with boy love dramas, you have real, if not real, but romances depicted between men and men. It's not something that you can just say, oh no, they are just real good buddies who also happen to kiss. Which is what seems to be going on with K-pop.
Oh yeah, in K-pop, everything is fan service, especially on the stage. So,
I think the other thing, I think it's definitely present for both boy groups and girl groups. I think what bothers me more, why it bothers me more for like female groups is because
way off track. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's all very interesting, but I think I guess I've watched a lot of variety, like not only interviews but like appearances on things like Running Man and like others. There's one show called like Untitled, like the Hyung that that show always has, whenever they have female idols on, it's like extremely uncomfortable because I found a lot of times they'll have this whole thing of like the uncle fan. So you have this like 19-year-old girl.
Yeah, that's
and you have these like 40, 50-year-old men who are like clearly there's like they're being perverts, but then they're like, oh, I'm just an uncle fan, as if that's like somehow an innocent kind of,
that's what I was saying. Like,
it's so gross.
There's so many male fans and so many older male fans for female groups that the industry kind of
and even though there's like the boy groups are like, oh, for our Nuna fans, but I feel like because in society the sexism is so
I also
strong,
feel being female myself. I also feel, just sorry to interrupt, just being female myself, I really feel maybe I'm more uncomfortable watching these women be subject to, like what you said, this uncle fan and this male gaze.
Well, because you also know that in real life the sexual harassment is often most likely going to happen to women, and they also have so much less power to fight back. I mean, this is going into like another whole thing, but with like all the things that are happening in South Korea today,
so many
like, everything. Yeah, it's a very big topic, but
I think that this is why we need more idols like Hani, who just like doesn't give a shit.
She's amazing. I don't follow her music, but I love her in
she's
variety and
fantastic, and she's very much like, everybody's like, oh, you're such like, you just like act like a guy, and it's like she just doesn't care. She's like, so, and I think that there's a little bit more of that. It's almost like girls are expected to act a certain way. Yeah.
Oh, I kind of wanted to do a slight segue. You guys mentioned how while both like girl groups and boy bands have mixed gender fans, there is this stigma that boy bands usually have these screaming young girls as fans, and like no grown women could possibly appreciate them.
My God.
Well, I mean, we all know that's not true, because have you seen the drama before?
I really dislike this kind of stigma, against young female fans, because like I said, for instance, the spread of K-pop has been given internationally, does seem to have this push by female fans, and female fandoms come together. There are bad things, but they also do good things, like the BTS fandom has raised over $1 million for UNICEF in their Love Yourself campaign.
So about that, so basically, I mean,
it's really unfair to categorize female fans as crazy and screaming and.
Well, to be fair, there are a lot of teenage fangirls. There are a lot of them. I don't think.
Yes, there are.
Obviously, everybody talking here, like rimi, like our age group is quite popular. I think it's more popular in like 20s than it is in any other kind of demographic. But there's definitely older fans. I've heard so many stories of groups that have like older, like harmonies, like grandmas who are fans of them, or just like middle-aged women. So I think it's
or like with iKON where there are apparently kindergarten kids.
Yeah, so 17 gets like little young like 5-year-olds who come up to their fan sign. So it's like all age groups. I don't think we have enough statistics to kind of say it's about any one thing. I think in general, though, that does like perhaps the most vocal ones online that get the worst rep are the 15-year-olds. I don't know.
I also think they're the ones that have the most time to be commenting online.
Yeah, nobody who has a full-time job has that much time to comment on Twitter that much.
Right. So speaking of like fans that have problematic behaviors, do you guys want to talk about the toxic fandom stuff, or is that something that you would prefer not?
I mean, for me it's directly linked to why I don't follow BTS as much anymore. Would you like to hear kind of my take on that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing about the fandom and how it can get dark is, I think it's an important part of.
Yeah,
I mean, sasaengs have been a thing. They're mentioned in Reply 1997.
Yeah, sasaengs have been around for a long time.
For a long time, like rabid fans of any kind of group, not just K-pop, but that goes into like that creepy kind of obsession level where it's almost, like they have shrines to them or whatever and send them. Oh gosh, I'm not even going to go into all the gross things I've heard, but yeah, that's definitely not healthy. I don't know if there's any.
That's not the only kind of the way to express the sort of extremities of I suppose fandom. There are also times when people feel that they have the right to dictate what the artists do in their personal lives, and that's not exactly healthy.
Also in their professional life. I'm most familiar with BTS, so I keep giving BTS examples. But very recently, BTS was doing a collaboration with this Japanese producer for AKB48, I think. Mm-hmm. And it seems he has some ties to people who are pro the whole colonization of Korea, I didn't follow it too closely. And, the fandom really got involved and they were messaging, and they filled this fan cafe with big hit, please take note of this. If this song comes out, it could become a problem for BTS. Because people who are not fans won't understand and they'll start to criticize them and dislike them and they'll become unpopular in South Korea.
Yeah, but that sounds like a helpful.
It sounds helpful. But, then Big Hit released a statement saying, okay, we're looking into this. But like the deluge of comments just wouldn't stop. And I agree that as an international fan, I may not be well placed to understand Korean sentiment, but I feel like the fandom took it too far. Like, I feel like there were nicer ways. You've raised the issue, you've brought it to the company's notice. Can you please stop and let them handle it? But it just went on and on. It was veiled as concern, but to me, it came across as complete control. And finally, they've withdrawn the song and they are not releasing it. But the way it was handled, rather than what the substances of what was said, it came across as complete control.
Yeah, there's definitely a very fine line between something like that, which is helpful in pointing out something that is wrong with whatever, which is, I don't know, and between becoming controlling. Like, I mean, this is probably a good reason to segue into like the dating thing. Obviously, the biggest event recently is HyunA and E'Dawn. I don't even know his name. Awkward. Of Pentagon publicly dating, and then the backlash that Korean fans particularly unleashed, and therefore and then the stopping of promotions from Cube, and now they've left the company, which is like ridiculous.
Wait, HyunA had left the company. I know that. I thought E'Dawn was contractually bound to stay.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know.
Nothing's been released, but HyunA particularly has definitely left. Has ended her contract with Cube. That's where like that whole difference between domestic fans and international fans I have noticed. Now, I'm not Korean and I don't speak Korean, and I don't generally spend a lot of time reading Knet's comments, generally because of my mental health and sanity.
Yeah.
Or
definitely.
Or any kind of online comments, yeah.
Yeah, any kind of online comments, definitely. It's like limited time only for my sanity. But there's definitely in Korea, there seems to be a much more attitude towards the groups that almost like of ownership. So the fans, for whatever delusional reason, feel like they are entitled to the group and only this group, and they have to do whatever the fans are comfortable with.
So basically the idols are marketed as like the boyfriend or the girlfriend of the fan. And fans invest a lot in the idol in the stream. Fans invest a lot in the idol in the streaming, in the merchandise they buy. You know, fans will pay for advertisements. If the group starts getting popular, fans will start paying for advertisements. I don't know what kind of behind the scenes sponsoring might be going on. You do see fans gifting really expensive, like say designer wear.
They also buy them stars, which is really pointless, but you know.
Yeah, so I mean, I really don't know. There might be more, you know, kind of sinister behind the scenes sponsoring happening. So I feel like companies do this companies do this kind of marketing on purpose. And in a way it helps them to have these kinds of fans. And companies really want to
it helps.
Yeah, and companies really want to pander to these fans at the cost of the artists themselves.
Which is why, so it's definitely, I think it's just generally a problem, like the companies potentially pander to that kind of environment, but also like just the entire concept of having an idol is something that, you know, I mean, the real definition is something you worship. In Korean pop music anyway, it's become like this thing that fans invest like almost their whole lives in. Driving.
So the idea is, I have given you so much, you're mine.
And it's almost like it has to be this symbiotic relationship between the idol and the fan, and that the idol owes the fan everything, and the fan therefore is allowed to expect things from the idol. I think it's just a direct product of that kind of environment that's been created, and it's just kind of produces breeds kind of this delusion between fandoms and
I think there's also the slave contract thing, right, which kind of was outlawed, but then there's still a lot of, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's completely gone away. What do you think about how that's changed? You know, like, because
they seem to have just gotten cleverer in wording the contracts.
Basically, earlier there were no restrictions or regulations on these contracts, so you would have contracts for a really long period, like say 13 years. And normally these are contracts that are signed once it is decided that this particular trainee will be debuting as an idol. So you could have a contract for 13 years, 14 years. And during that period, the division of profits was skewed towards the company, because the company does indeed invest a lot of money in training this person. There's a Sumpi article on how much it costs to debut a K-pop group that I read recently. And you might be spending up to like $1.5 or $1.8 million on one person. So you have to recover that cost.
Yeah.
And the division of profits was very heavily skewed in favor of the company. And the artist was given nothing until those costs were recovered.
Yeah.
So I think maybe about a decade ago, TVXQ took SM Entertainment to court. Over the unfair terms in their contract, and it was held that, you know, these contracts can only be for a 7-year period. Then I think in 2017 the Korea Fair Trade Commission has introduced further changes, and these range, you know, they cover, for instance, distribution of profits, and other. Yeah, I mean, they've introduced other changes.
It still seems to be dependent on the company and the group.
Penalties on trainees or idols who breach the contract. So where, from instead of like $100,000 to a more reasonable amount.
I mean, there's countless examples of people suing their companies over the past like 10 to 15 years, like 3 EXO members left, and I think at least one. I think the way it goes is that he was made to dance with an injured leg, and then his dad pulled him out, and then there was like a 3-long-year lawsuit, and then they actually lost the lawsuit because SM has money.
Oh wow! I hadn't heard that they lost.
That was recent. I think that was just the beginning of this year. And then people like Block B, who were under Stardom Entertainment, and then their CEO wasn't paying them and stealing their money basically. And then he actually ran away and committed suicide. And Block B sued the company. They also lost, but they got to leave. And they started under another company. So
there's also Beast who recently left, and they didn't get the right to keep their name, and so now they're promoting under Highlight, and they've started their own company.
Right.
Yeah. Which props to them. Go start your own company. I think everybody should do that.
I love them. They're awesome. Yeah.
And even if an artist is being mistreated, it's not always easy for them to speak up against the company, because they do want to protect their career going forward. They might think it's worth it to stay silent.
Yeah.
So, the recent example would be...
Yeah, shall we talk about the East Light here?
Yes. No, I don't have a lot of information on this. So probably only be me talking.
So, in short, this week news has broken out that the East Light, I think they debuted in 2016. I listened to their music. I quite like them. I've watched many of their performances. They are teenagers. They are still children. And it's, and we are now, the leader, Lee Suk-chul, I think he's describing the kind of horrific abuse that they went through. And K-pop has a bad name for overworking and exploiting its idols, and, these diets, and you cannot date, and these slave contracts. But I feel like the East Side situation just goes beyond that. These boys have been, over a 3-year period, they have been beaten. They have been beaten with a baseball bat. This member, guitar strings were tied around his neck during a practice session. And every time he made a mistake, they would be pulled. They've been locked up somewhere. Fans have identified that during one of the instances where a member was beaten and locked up, the other members appeared on a video or a V-Live or something in a different building, and it's on the same day that member is not present at that moment in time. Was he locked up somewhere? And these boys, they would have been living in dorms away from their family. They were beaten up. They were told, if you tell your family, they were threatened, I will kill you if you tell anybody, and your career will be ruined. Who wants to listen to an artist who whines or who speaks up against their company? I mean, I don't know. It's just horrific, the kind of thing that they've been through.
Yeah, they're probably blacklisted in the industry if they speak up against one company. That's how these industries usually function.
Yeah, over here, though, I mean, this is a serious case for criminal prosecution, and I certainly hope that's the way it's going. The company has since then released a statement saying that they were aware of what the producer was doing, and they had spoken to him about not continuing this kind of behavior. And now, after these reports have come out, he has handed in his resignation and taken full responsibility. I feel like this deserves criminal prosecution. The CEO has also verbally and physically abused them, as have, I don't know who else in that company might be involved. What I find really sad, though, is I'm not reading any comments or articles from people within the K-pop industry. The news within South Korea seems to have picked it up. But from within the K-pop industry executives or big name stars coming out and supporting these boys or condemning the situation, none of this is happening. And I feel like like, I can only think of two reasons for that. Firstly, it makes me think that it's so common and so prevalent that nobody can come out and say anything because somebody will call them out on it.
Yeah.
Or secondly, the defamation laws in South Korea, where in many parts of the world, truth is a defense to defamation. But in South Korea, you get 7 years for making false statements. But even if you're telling the truth, you can get up to 3 years of prison.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at what happened with the Me Too movement. So many women got slapped.
Unless you are speaking in public interest. That's why I know, because of the Me Too movement. That's why I know what the defamation laws are. Unless you're speaking in public interest, solely in public interest, even if you're telling the truth, you could go to jail. So Lee Suk-chul, in his statement, his first conference, he prefaced it with, I am doing this, for like to end, say, the violation of human rights in the idol industry. And he probably is coming out for a variety of reasons, including this. And I feel like that preface was also to take care of the defamation laws, like specifically stating it, not coming out. Like the stating what has happened is probably for why he says it has happened, but just stating that this is why I'm saying it, that was a protection against the whole defamation regime, which is really unfair. I mean, on people like these boys or the victims of the Me Too movement.
Right.
And
especially when the power balance is already so skewed and, bad.
So I just summarized my thoughts on all of this. But basically, I feel like it's even worse than usual K-pop situation because these were minors.
Yeah, so young.
They were even, I think the youngest is 15 years old now. 15 years old, international age right now. So they are far too young and had no idea of alternatives or what they could have done. Right now, 2 members are out of the company as far as I'm aware. The others are still there. And I have no idea what they're going through because this kind of news has come out now.
I feel like kind of the power that company has is just so, that would definitely put off more than enough people to not even go in there because it would be so much emotional, physical, everything.
Yeah. But I'm really sad that no one within the industry appears to be speaking out against this kind of thing or in support of these boys. It's just really disappointing.
Considering how little people have been known to speak out about even things like mental health and K-pop until very recently, I can't say I'm surprised, even though it does suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot like the K-drama industry, right? If you even bring up mental health, like if there is like any hint that somebody had ever had to go to a therapist for any reason, that is just like a black mark against them.
Yeah, which is ridiculous, but
do you guys follow any self-produced artists?
Yes. Oh, I really want to say something about it.
I'll let you go. Yes, you can go first.
I mean, yes, I absolutely do. Something I sort of noticed in the guide, I don't know whether this is, you can perhaps tell me if you guys have fallen out of following K-pop or probably don't even follow K-pop very much at all. Is it like is it opinion that most people have that K-pop isn't self-produced or is only becoming more and more self-produced? Like what is, then I'll answer.
I can't say for everyone, but I think the general assumption has always been that it's very manufactured and that they don't sing their own music. But like from what I've seen in the last few years, it does seem to be more and more self-produced.
Right.
So I think it's going to that direction.
Something I thought was quite interesting. So Sao Taiji and the boys, who as relatively well known to be the start of K-pop, were actually self-produced. So right from the very beginning, there have been self-produced idols. And something that sort of bothers me a little bit is some people just sort of have this opinion on some groups. It's like, oh, these are the only groups that self-produce. It's like, actually, it has been a thing for a while. It just might not necessarily be known or someone has not bothered to find out about it. So right from the very beginning,
like a lot of Western commentators on like BTS who are incredibly popular tend to say, oh, they're different because they're self-produced.
Which is not true because, I mean, for example, Sao Taiji and the boys, they were self-produced. And then GD.
Even Big Bang, right?
Big Bang, from like very, very start, G-Dragon wrote all of their music, or helped with it, at least helped produce it with someone else, which is very common to have like a producing duo. I can list, there's hundreds and hundreds, not hundreds, tens of idols who have produced their own music, like Block B, for example, Eco and Pop Time, who's his producing co-partner. He's not an idol, he's just a producer, have produced all of Block B's music from the very beginning, even their debut song. 17 were marketed as a self-producing group, so not only do they write their own music, they also contribute to choreography and album packaging and photography and all of the design around their work, which is quite impressive.
Okay.
That's partly they're marketed as self-produced.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, so not all of it, but they have one of their members took one of their album cover photos, for example, and Hoshi helps and choreographs pretty much all of their own stuff, along with also Woozy writes pretty much all their own music, and they all help and contribute to lyric writing. So yeah, even like within Block B, you've got Zico helped produce one of their music videos, which I didn't know until recently, but he did. So you've got people like that, but it just goes further than that. You've got BTS, who have been contributing to their music for quite some time now. Big Bang, Highlight, Junhyuk of Highlight. Yeah, he is the second most copyrighted idol producer. You've got people like Jin Young, G-Dragon.
Of course. Of course it is.
Ravi of VIX is also really big. I've just forgotten all the other really big ones, but like B2B.
That's quite a large assortment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly. And I've even heard of some of these. I'm surprised.
Yes.
EX
Winner, Icon.
Winner, that's what I was getting to. Winner is pretty much all self-produced. Icon, Beast, we've already mentioned their
like 101?
I don't know.
101 are not self-produced.
That's network produced.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the sense that they were brought together by this survival program, and they, the term on the program was the nation is the producer. Because like people voted for the group. However, the music.
Some members of 101 though, so lots of them come from already a group. So Sungwoon comes from Hot Shot, for example, and they write a lot of music.
But 101's music, I think, is I'm not sure.
Specifically, I think it's made.
But I think it is written for
even
them.
People like EXO, who I think kind of were sort of like the front group of this kind of idea that K-pop isn't self-produced, that it's like company-based only. Even EXO, Lay has produced quite a lot of songs and written a lot of the songs.
And Chanyeol is also writing a few songs.
And Chanyeol as well. So it's becoming, I think there was a period of time where a lot of the mainstream stuff, and there's still some groups that don't write their own stuff, but like the mainstream stuff was written by an outside producer for the group, and then they performed and sung it. But
there's also this really false idea of how K-pop companies purchase B-grade music from Western producers that nobody in the West wants to buy is sold to K-pop companies.
I have heard this being talked about a lot.
And they make this music.
In my opinion, it would be more like big companies will hire a big name producer to
make it. Exactly. It's hardly B grade.
And which does happen in a lot of groups. But I think the point is that from the very beginning, groups have definitely been self-produced, and potentially it's becoming more so now, but it has always been prevalent. You've just got to know where to look for it. But
it's also that usually the artists who don't get a chance with the big three, for instance, or other big names in the industry, they are the ones who and then later on make a name for themselves. These self-produced people, like most recently I can think of Holland, and because of his sexuality, he most likely would not have been backed by any.
He is not. He is he does not have any.
Completely self-created, and he did massively on YouTube. And he came up on my recommendation feed, and I watched his first, and I really liked his first song. It did seem a little amateurish, but it was pretty refreshing.
Yeah.
So
but Holland has received a lot of attention internationally, but within South Korea, he doesn't appear to have received.
I think that's because of the nature of the culture at the moment internationally, for especially America. That would be very. He would be a lot more welcome there, whereas potentially Korea is a lot more conservative.
And he seems to be going with his next second release with this entire. Did you guys watch his second video? Because it was interesting.
I'm not afraid.
He seems to be. He seems to be pandering, quote unquote, to the international audience. You had this diverse group of people in the video, and it's like. Hey, it's my interpretation, but it seems to me that he was saying that I appreciate the support from the international community, because he didn't seem to be getting much from it.
So Rolling Stone India did an interview with him where he has in fact addressed this issue, not exactly the music video, but he has addressed the issue of how he has been perceived in South Korea versus how the reception he has received internationally. And, you might be right.
So it'll be interesting to see if he can sustain himself on his international popularity, or if it's just seasonal, because without a domestic fan base, it might be difficult for him to retain his idol.
Exactly. And however, he actually is good. Like you, I like his music. And I think he has a lot of talent and a lot of potential.
He can get much better.
Right. Not just of, because of his identity. As a homosexual person, seeking out as a homosexual person within this conservative K-pop industry. Beyond that, his music is pretty decent, with more exposure. And as he grows, he's really young. He's like 21 or 22.
He's a baby.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know.
It's
actually surprising.
Babies.
So as he grows older, I hope he's able to, gain like a stronger foothold.
And I hope that he can get like a good videographer, because he was doing everything. He was directing himself. He cast his friend in his first video. So it's like it was really home production overall. Right. So hopefully he gets enough money.
That have the money, right? So it's an uphill struggle if you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Which is where fans can help. Like instead of sending money and gifts to EXO, for instance, it might be a good thing to send it to Holland. So
you need to set up a GoFundMe.
So you actually asked, do we actually follow any self-produced idols? Well, that would be a good way to segue into favorite groups.
Yeah.
Before we get to favorite groups, though, I just wanted to ask, and this kind of relates to like the perception of K-pop in the wider, outside the fandom. Do you think that Kdramas, since this is a K-drama podcast, do you think that Kdramas, I'm not sure if you read the email, but do you think, as fans who have been following K-pop for a long time, do you feel like there's a lot of K-pop idol drama, or like dramas that portray that lifestyle or that kind of industry? Do you think that they do a good job? Do you think that there are some that,
for instance, Liar and Lover, which is the only one I can think of that actually delved into that.
There's also the best
Shut up, slow boy band. Oh my god.
I don't think the Liar and his lover did a good job. I mean, from what we hear about what they say in interviews, how Bobby on what is that show? Radio something. Anyway, Bobby recently from Icon, he was talking about how, everything is regulated. Like they can't even leave their dorm to get something from the convenience store without informing their manager. So all of this...
That's a company thing, though. YG has really specific regulations to his specific groups, and Icon, Blackpink, and WINNER specifically have really tight regulations. If you found someone like Block B, for example, they have pretty much no regulations. So.
What about You're Beautiful?
Yeah, that has to be real, right?
Well,
I have my hopes pinned on that being totally real.
That's totally
okay, I haven't seen it.
Personally, one of my favorite examples of K-pop, or that kind of just the industry extreme examples in K-drama was actually Shut Up Flower Boy Band. Now, it was rushed because it was a shorter show and you can't show everything in that amount of episodes. And it happened really quickly. Like, you would never have got a group that suddenly got a contract like that. And but hey, they hadn't have enough time. So I understand the constraints of Dramaland. But I really or did actually really like how they showed the effect of fame and that industry on the different members and how it influenced different people in that drama differently. So you had Young-soo L's character who sort of definitely milked it because he just wanted money for his family, which in my opinion would definitely be a motivation for someone in real life to become an idol if they can make it. And then you had people like the lead, I can't remember now, but Sung-joon, who kind of wasn't really comfortable with like this whole image he had to portray and this music that wasn't his own, that he wasn't producing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean that is more of like a band that started on their own and then sort of gets pulled into the industry.
It's not perfect example, but there were aspects of that show which I thought really hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I mean that drama is so good. It
is. I love it. And also, like, in the end, they actually broke up, but we're still friends. Like, disbandments happen all the time in K-pop for various reasons. Some really, really bad, and some understandable.
Have you guys seen The Best Hit?
Yes.
I read the recaps because
I watched like the first few episodes and then the last episode.
This isn't I thought, okay, this is a K-drama podcast, but I was about to go into why I didn't actually watch it, but that's a K-drama related thing, not a K-pop related thing.
That's also legitimate. You should share it.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't watch it because I felt, first of all, I don't like time travel in dramas, and second of all, I found it really, really awkward watching him fall in love with the girl his son had a crush on.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him take on like a fatherly role. I mean, the direction the plot took, I didn't like it, so I just watched the end because Yoon Shi.
So honestly, the first half was amazing, and then the ending made me so angry that I was like,
but you know the scene at the end where he meets like the two Yoon Shiuns meet is so good. I really love him.
Yeah. I followed it in recaps because I was really interested, but I didn't watch it, so I can't really comment on it.
I do think that, like, despite the fact that the plot completely like went off the rails and the time travel didn't make any sense and stuff, but I did think that they did a pretty good job of like portraying the day-to-day idol stuff.
Yeah, didn't they have a lot of jokes about like YG?
But you know, like in terms,
like with I can't remember any of their names, but like there was that big company CEO who used to be in a group with that little company CEO. How that's like that was literally a reference to how YG has got really big, and YG used to be with Sasaengs and the boys, and how YG only became.
He even kind of looks like him.
Yeah, that was the point of that.
Exactly.
And it's a direct reference. So
yeah, there was a lot of like meta stuff that only fans would enjoy. That was cool.
But also in terms of the portrayal of idol trainee life, I'm just going to draw comparisons again with Suga's mixtape. There's a song where there's like it's a pin code, it's numbers. I don't remember what the numbers are. Where he describes.
No, it's the pin code. Sorry.
No, it's like 714, whatever. The one with numbers. Yeah. The one with numbers, the one that's like a pin code.
The other two are just like, what are they talking?
Yeah, I'm so lost right now.
It's okay. Where he talks, where he gives like how it's just his whole story of how he wanted to do music. He was in Daegu, he auditioned, or he did this like competition, and he got a call, and he came to Seoul, and what happened. So it's a story in the song format.
Yeah.
And the way he describes it is he was going to school, then he was spending all evening and all night in the practice studio, then he was going for his part-time job like at dawn, early morning, middle of the night, he's going for his part-time job, and then dragging his tired self again to school, tired body again to school, and even if he managed to do it, he would only be sleeping. So he graduated this way. So in that sense, if I compare the best hit to that song, I find Kim and Jae, the idol trainee, had a much easier life compared to what I am seeing reflected in, say, music or in interviews.
I don't think being a trainee is easy from any of the kind of trainee stories I've heard.
Yeah.
17 or Big Bang or Block B, I don't think it's easy at all.
Yeah, because they're going to school, then they're in practice all evening, all night, and then
it's definitely
they're in dorms, and the company only pays them like basic minimum sustenance. So then they have to work part-time jobs to earn some money to eat.
Are insane. It's like it's just non-stop. Even now with some of the groups I follow, it's like they will like stay up to like 3 a.m. writing music or practicing dance because it's what they want to do and it's what they love. But I'm like, how are more of you not like burnt out, or are you and we just don't know about it?
I think the latter is more likely.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, should we go to favorite groups before we run out of time?
Favorites. Let's hear it.
Okay, so I'm a big BTS fan. And I really like YG groups, particularly the boy groups. Big Bang, Icon, Winner. I really like them as well. After beyond that, there are groups. I mean, I listened to a lot of. I got into K-pop about a year ago now, and I listen to a lot of whatever comes out, the new music that comes out, whatever Soompi puts up. I just click on the video. If I like the song, I'll check out more. So I have discovered the other groups I like this way. I like Impact. I do like the East Light, though of course I don't think they're going to be releasing anything. I don't know how many members will even stay in music. I like the East Light. So there are other groups that I've come to know. But my main favorites are, of course, BTS and the 3 YG boy groups.
Okay.
What about you, Sicarius?
So I like casually follow a lot of artists in a lot of groups, and I even more casually follow even more. But like probably I have maybe six main ones. So
6 main ones. Wow.
I know, I'm really organized. I have lists of everything. You should see my K-pop folders. It's very, very, very organized. It's
very detailed, very organized.
So my main group. So probably my main one. Obviously, I got into it through BTS, but I can't really say that they're my main one anymore. So my main one now would be Block B, and partly because they write all their own music and they write really wacky music, and they're extremely unconventional in terms of idol standards. They just really suck at being idols, and it's kind of hilarious to see them flail about trying. So I really like Block B, and then 17 is one of my other really big groups. It's like, I often say it's like adopting 11 puppies and 2 kittens, or it's like having 30 younger brothers. So they're just a lot of fun and just really happy all the time. And really energetic. And then Big Bang, obviously, but mostly G-Dragon. Sorry, that's his real name.
Yes, thanks to Sicarius, I am also
like big fan.
But particularly Jeong or G-Dragon because of Siko. Yes.
Yes, that was a great time in my life when I got her into Jeong.
Did you guys weep when he went into army? Did you guys do that too?
No. I didn't. Did
How
you
can
weep?
You call yourself true fan?
Siko, did you weep?
Oh, I got really sad. I don't cry about that.
I think I got into Big Bang after they had already gone into the army.
Oh, see, I got into them like 8 years ago.
When I got really sad because I was like, man, I miss him already. I miss liking all his Instagram posts. And he's had a really rough time in the army too, so I'm like, it's not cool. Anyway, what was I saying? So Block B, Big Bang, 17. Winner, I really like Winner. They're a lot of fun.
I love Winner. They have such nice music. I think if you ask me, Rimi, what are your 3 favorite albums as a whole, not just groups? My first is Suga's Mixtape. Second is BTS's Wings. And third is actually Winner's Every Day. I think except one song. I like all the songs. I listen to them constantly. So yeah,
is my favorite winter album. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. And then
moving on.
One of my other really big groups. Now these are technically not K-pop anymore. I would call them more K-rock, but they kind of started out as K-pop. So FD Island, man.
Mm-hmm.
Honky, which is probably all you guys know that from, but FD Island are great
him too.
because rock songs, and they're one of, like, Block B and FD Island for me. Block B has a member who is dating and has been for like over 7 years now, and one of the FD Island members just got married, and has a child. So like that kind of thing, like their fandoms just aren't as controlling, and they're more relaxed to be kind of who they are and do what they want to do. And then SHINee has become really big for me really recently. Mm-hmm. They're not as big on the self-producing front since Jonghyun died. But I really like their personalities on Variety, particularly. They're hilarious, and I have found a lot of their music that I really like. Mm-hmm. And then top girl group is probably still Mamamoo, although I haven't liked their music as much recently. And then obviously BTS, I still have a place in my heart for them because of 2016. But I have to admit, I did not like the past
on the fandom front, because like Siko says, she doesn't like BTS so much anymore because of their fandom. I just wanted to say, I mean, for various reasons, including the fandom. I don't pay attention to fandom activities at all, which would make me like maybe I'm not an ARMY, I don't know, but I do like to say I'm an ARMY just because I love them. That's it.
Yeah, for me it's just like it goes a lot into a lot of other aspects of why I just sort of haven't been able to follow them as much as I'd like anymore. But other groups that I really like: B1A4, iKON, Newest, AKMU, Infinite, Blackpink, Hard. Goes on. There's a lot of people. They're all really good. Oh, I just wanted to say, you talked about like if we had any music suggestions. I've actually been meaning to share this for like 2 weeks now. I have made a playlist of at least one song by every Korean artist that I follow on Spotify.
Then share this playlist with us. We're gonna link them below.
I'll tag everybody.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes.
So, yeah. Oh yeah, I think so. We need your favorites. We've got 4 minutes. Go.
I don't have much time, but I'll keep it quick. I first got into K-pop with Big Bang because they did an OST on it was actually a Japanese drama. I was like, I like the sound of these guys. So I went online and I found Haru Haru, and I cried. It was a whole journey. It was very intense. If you've seen that music video, you know what I mean. So I got really into Big Bang for like a few years. This was back when they were like the biggest group in Korea, like maybe like 7-8 years ago. Yeah, but at that time they were like huge. They're still my favorite. I also really love SHINee, and I like Beast Highlight now. Yeah, I don't listen to as much music K-pop as I used to, but yeah. I'm much more of a casual. Like I would never like put a fan name on myself because I just don't stand people.
I also just wanted to add, BTS have this whole love yourself message that they do that I really love, and it has been very influential and helpful in my own life, and therefore I love them.
I would love to argue about that with later, but we have 3 minutes.
A subject for another time, yes.
I think we have left enough material for another episode in the future, because I completely forgot to ask you guys what you think about idols going into K-dramas, like acting.
I actually have lots of thoughts on that.
Yeah, honestly, definitely that's an episode for the future.
All right, it's a gift. It's a subject that has many gifts to give. Thank you so much for joining
guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thanks for letting us ramble.
And sharing all of your K-pop knowledge, which we have so little of. So we're just soaking it all in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And thank you, listeners, for sticking with us with this like different topic.
That was fun. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Let's all say bye now.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was our episode. We hope you enjoyed this discussion about facets of K-pop beyond the glossy music videos. Before you leave us, please take a look at the description of this podcast. There you'll find a link to Sikadis's post about what makes the Korean language so musical in rap format. It spawned an interesting conversation amongst a few fans with their own theories. Rimi has been creating covers of K-pop with her friends, and you'll find links to her SoundCloud playlist below. Oh, and in case you forgot, our Twitter handle is dramasoverflow, and our email is starsinourpocket@gmail.com. Talk to us, write to us, tell us what your favorite K-pop bands are, and what we should definitely be listening to. Until next time, bye-bye.